She was just the invisible maid in a house of giants. But when the Mafia boss's girlfriend crossed the final line, Naomi Robinson did the unthinkable. She struck back. In that heartbeat, a secret empire began to crumble, and the untouchable queen realized she had just picked a fight with the wrong woman. But as the boss looked into Naomi's eyes, he realized she was hiding a secret that would change his world forever. In the Han Syndicate, the rules were simple. Silence is survival. For weeks, Naomi endured the calculated cruelty and deep disrespect of Lee Soo-ah. She ignored the sneers and the impossible tasks, until the moment her dignity outweighed the risk of death. When Naomi refused to be broken, she sparked a war that would expose a toxic lie and turn the Mafia boss's gaze directly toward her. Watch until the very end, because the secret in Naomi's suitcase proves she was never just a maid. What happened next shocked everyone in that mansion, including the most dangerous man in Seoul. The sound of the slap echoed through the marble foyer like a gunshot. 15 staff members froze where they stood. Security guards' hands moved instinctively toward their weapons. And Lee Soo-ah, the untouchable girlfriend of Korea's most feared mafia boss, stared at me with her mouth open, her porcelain cheek turning bright red. No one had ever dared to strike her. No one. But I wasn't just any maid. And that single moment, that split-second decision to defend myself, was about to change my entire life in ways I never could have imagined. Let me take you back to where it all started, 3 weeks earlier. When I was just another foreign worker trying to survive in a country that wasn't mine. My name is Naomi Robinson. I'm American. I'm Black. And in September 2019, I landed in Seoul, South Korea, with 2 battered suitcases, $300 in cash, and a secret I couldn't tell anyone. See, I wasn't supposed to be scrubbing floors in a foreign country. 6 months before I arrived in Korea, I was a graduate student at Howard University, 2 semesters away from my master's degree in forensic accounting. I was good at it too, top of my class, job offers already coming in. Then my mom got sick, stage 3 breast cancer. No insurance. The hospital bills started arriving faster than I could count them. Within 3 months, we'd burned through her savings, my savings, and were drowning in debt that grew by thousands every week. I had a choice. Finish my degree and watch my mother die waiting for treatment. Or put my life on hold and do whatever it took to keep her alive. So I researched. I ran the numbers, because that's what accountants do. And I found out that teaching English in South Korea paid enough that I could send home $2,000 a month and still have enough left over to survive. But I didn't want to teach. The pay was better for live-in domestic work. No rent, no utilities. Every dollar I earned could go straight to Mom's medical bills. 3 weeks later, I signed a contract to work as a maid at the Han estate in Seoul. 1-year commitment, private household, room and board included. I didn't ask too many questions about who the Han family was or what they did. I should have. The Han estate was massive. 20,000 square feet of marble, crystal, and money. Gardens that looked like they belonged in a palace. Security everywhere. Not the friendly neighborhood watch type, but the kind with earpieces and suspicious eyes. This wasn't just wealth. This was power. I met the other household staff on my first day. 15 people ranging from teenagers to women in their 60s. They were Korean, Filipino, Vietnamese. All of us foreign workers or from poor families. And they all had one thing in common. Fear. They moved like ghosts, eyes down, voices barely above whispers. No one smiled. No one made small talk. When the head housekeeper introduced me, they nodded politely and went back to work without a word. I remember thinking, what kind of place is this? I found out 2 hours later. Her name was Lee Soo-ah, 28 years old, stunningly beautiful with porcelain skin, a sleek black bob, and the kind of elegance that comes from generational wealth. She wore a cream-colored designer dress that probably cost more than my entire year's salary. She was the girlfriend of Tae-yang, the man who owned the estate, the staff, and apparently most of Seoul's underground. She looked at me the way you'd look at dirt on your expensive shoes. "You're the American? Let me make something very clear. This isn't your country. Here, you follow our rules. You speak when spoken to, you work until the work is done, and you never, ever embarrass me in front of my staff. Do you understand?" I understood perfectly. I was looking at a woman who wore power like a weapon and had no problem using it on people she considered beneath her. What I didn't know yet was just how cruel she could be. For 3 weeks, I endured her abuse in silence. But here's what she didn't know. I understood every word of Korean she used to insult me. And that secret? It was about to become her biggest mistake. Let me paint you a picture of what those 3 weeks were like. Day 3, Sua accidentally knocked a full glass of red wine onto my freshly pressed uniform during dinner service. Then, she screamed at me for 5 minutes about how clumsy and incompetent I was, all in Korean, assuming I couldn't understand. "Stupid girl! Do you know how much this rug costs? More than your entire worthless life." I apologized, cleaned it up, and changed uniforms. The other staff looked at me with pity, but said nothing. Day 7, she made me scrub the entire second-floor hallway on my hands and knees because she claimed she saw a spot on the marble. I scrubbed for 4 hours. When I finished, she inspected it, said it still wasn't clean enough, and made me do it again. Day 12. I watched her reduce a girl named Mi-sun to tears. Mi-sun was 18, sweet, from a poor family in Busan. She'd folded a towel wrong, or maybe she hadn't. Maybe Sua just needed a target that day. Either way, she screamed at this girl until Mi-sun was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. And the worst part? Sua only did this when Tae-yang wasn't around. When he was home, she transformed. Suddenly, she was gracious, smiling, the perfect partner. She'd compliment the staff, joke with the security guards, play the role of the elegant lady of the house. The moment he left, the mask came off. She was smart about it, calculated. She knew exactly how much she could get away with and who would be too afraid to tell. You might be wondering why I put up with it, why I didn't just quit and leave. Every 2 weeks, I sent $2,000 home to my mother. Every time she'd text me updates. "Treatment's working. Doctors are optimistic. You're saving my life, baby." That's why I endured. Not because I was weak, not because I accepted being treated like property, but because my mother's life depended on me keeping my head down and my mouth shut. I told myself it was temporary. 1 year, 12 months. I could survive 12 months of anything if it meant my mom survived. But there's only so much a person can take before something inside them breaks. For me, that breaking point came on a Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. in front of the entire household staff. What Sua didn't know, what she never bothered to find out, was that I'd been studying Korean for 6 months before I even arrived. I understood every insult, every cruel word, every degrading comment she thought I couldn't comprehend. She was about to find out the hard way. Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. It was a normal day. I was polishing the banister in the main foyer. The other staff were doing their morning duties, dusting, vacuuming, preparing for the day. Everything was quiet, peaceful. Then I heard her heels clicking on the marble stairs. Sua was in a mood. I could see it in her face, in the way she walked, like a predator hunting for prey. Her eyes scanned the foyer, looking for someone to unleash on. They landed on me. My stomach dropped. "You, come here, now." I walked over, keeping my expression neutral. I'd learned that showing emotion only made it worse. The other staff had frozen where they stood, watching with that familiar look of relief mixed with pity. Relief it wasn't them, pity because they knew what was coming. Sua walked around me slowly, inspecting my work on the banister like a drill sergeant looking for any excuse to punish. "This is your idea of clean? Look at this, streaks everywhere. Are all Americans this incompetent, or just the black ones?" I felt the words like a physical blow, but I kept my face blank. Around us, the staff shifted uncomfortably. They'd heard this before, Sua's racist comments delivered in Korean, assuming her foreign workers couldn't understand. But I understood every word. I took a breath, ready to apologize for streaks that didn't exist, ready to clean again, ready to endure. And then she said something that crossed a line I didn't even know I had. "Your mother must be so proud. Raised a daughter who can't even scrub floors properly. Then again, what can you expect from people like you? Your kind is only good for—" She didn't finish that sentence, because her hand connected with my face so hard I saw stars. The sound echoed through the foyer like a gunshot. My cheek exploded with pain. I tasted blood where I'd bitten my tongue. The entire room went silent. 15 staff members held their breath. No one moved. No one spoke. And I felt something inside me snap. It wasn't the pain. I'd dealt with pain before. It was the audacity, the casual cruelty. The fact that she'd just insulted my mother, my sick mother, who I was killing myself to save, and then struck me like I was property that needed correcting. In that moment, every ounce of self-preservation, every survival instinct, every rational thought that said, "Keep your head down," just evaporated. I looked at her, this woman who'd spent 3 weeks treating me like dirt, who'd humiliated me, degraded me, and now physically assaulted me in front of everyone. And I made a choice. My hand moved before my brain could stop it. The sound of my palm hitting her cheek was louder than hers had been. I put every ounce of 3 weeks' worth of rage behind that slap. Lee Sua stumbled backward, her hand flying to her face, her mouth falling open in complete shock. No one had ever hit her back. No one had ever dared. For exactly 3 seconds, Sua just stared at me. Her brain couldn't process what had just happened. The untouchable girlfriend of Seoul's most dangerous man had just been slapped by a maid. Then the shock turned to fury. "How dare you? Do you have any idea who I am? Who he is? I'll have you arrested. I'll have you deported. I'll have you—" And that's when he walked in. Tae-yang. I'd only seen him 3 times in 3 weeks. He traveled constantly, managing whatever business empire required this level of security and secrecy. 6'2", broad shoulders, perfectly tailored suit, dark hair swept back, and eyes. God, his eyes were the kind that missed absolutely nothing. The most dangerous man in Seoul had just walked into his foyer, where his girlfriend and his maid both had matching red handprints on their faces. This was the moment I thought I was going to die. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Tae-yang had cameras installed throughout the entire estate. Hidden cameras that recorded everything. He'd seen the whole thing. And he was about to make a decision that would change both of our lives forever. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there in the doorway, his eyes moving methodically across the room, taking in the 15 terrified staff members, the crystal chandelier reflecting off marble floors, me, standing with my spine straight, despite the fear coursing through my veins. Sua, already pivoting into victim mode, tears forming in her eyes. His gaze lingered on our faces, the matching marks. Then his eyes dropped to Sua's right hand, still slightly raised, then to my hands, clenched at my sides. He was reading the scene like a crime analyst. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, calm, but something about that quietness made it more terrifying than shouting. "What happened here?" Silence. No one dared answer. I asked a question. "Who struck first?" Sua immediately launched into her performance, and believe me, it was a performance worthy of an Oscar. "Tae-yang, she attacked me, in front of everyone! This foreigner has no respect for authority, no respect for our household, for you!" I didn't ask for a performance. I asked, who struck first? Her mouth snapped shut so fast, I almost heard her teeth click. The room somehow got even quieter. The staff remained frozen. I could feel their terror, their desperate desire to become invisible. They'd all seen what happened. Sua had struck me first, but testifying to that in front of her? That meant becoming her next target. In the Han household, survival meant silence. Then Tae-yang turned his full attention to me. His eyes locked onto mine, and I felt pinned in place. He wasn't looking at me like I was a servant. He was looking at me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Miss Robinson, did you strike Miss Lee?" I could have lied, could have said she'd attacked me unprovoked. The other staff might have backed me up out of their own hatred for Sua. But something about the way he asked, the directness, the respect in using my name, made me choose honesty. "Yes, sir, I did." "Why?" "Because she struck me first, sir. I defended myself." Tae-yang moved closer, his footsteps the only sound in that massive foyer. He studied my face, the angle of the mark on my cheek. Then Sua's face, the matching red bloom on her porcelain skin. His eyes dropped to her right hand again, then to my hands. I could practically see his mind working, reconstructing the scene from the physical evidence. Then he did something that surprised me. He looked at my hands more closely, not just checking for proof of the slap, but really looking at them. At the calluses, yes, but also at the way I held them, steady, controlled. "You aren't just a maid, are you, Miss Robinson?" The question was so quiet, I almost thought I'd imagined it, but I hadn't. He'd seen something, maybe in how I carried myself, maybe in how I hadn't crumbled under Sua's assault, maybe just in the defiance still burning in my eyes. I met his gaze directly. "I am whatever I need to be to survive, sir." Something flickered in his expression, not quite a smile, but something close to respect. Sua must have sensed she was losing control of the situation, because her sob turned into something sharper, more aggressive. "She's lying! Look at her! She's been disrespectful since the day she arrived. She doesn't know her place! Enough." That single word cut through her tirade like a blade. Sua actually took a step back. Tae-yang turned to address the entire room. "Did anyone witness what happened?" No one moved. No one breathed. They'd all seen it. Every single one of them. But not a soul was brave enough to speak. Tae-yang's expression didn't change, but I saw something in his eyes. Disappointment, maybe? Or just confirmation of what he already knew about fear and loyalty in his household. "Very well. Everyone is dismissed. Return to your duties." The staff scattered like leaves in a windstorm. Within seconds, the foyer was nearly empty. But Sua wasn't done. "What? That's it? She assaulted me in your house, in front of your staff, and you're just going to—" "I said everyone is dismissed. That includes you, Sua. We'll discuss this privately." For the first time since I'd known her, I saw fear in Lee Sua's eyes. Real fear. Whatever she saw in Tae-yang's expression made her mouth close, made her nod, made her turn and walk toward the stairs without another word, though I could feel the rage radiating off her like heat. I started to follow the other staff, assuming I was dismissed too, assuming this was over. "Not you, Miss Robinson. Wait in the library." The library was on the first floor, down a long hallway lined with expensive art I had been dusting for 3 weeks. It was a massive room, floor-to-ceiling books, leather armchairs, the kind of space designed to intimidate with intelligence and old money. I sat in one of the chairs and waited. My hands were shaking now. The adrenaline that had carried me through the confrontation was wearing off, leaving behind the cold reality of what I'd done. I'd slapped the girlfriend of a crime lord in his house, in front of witnesses. I had no idea if I was about to be fired, deported, or worse. All I could do was sit there and wait for judgment. What I didn't know was that while I sat in that library trying not to panic, Tae-yang was upstairs in his office watching surveillance footage. Footage that showed everything Sua had done to me over 3 weeks, and he was about to make a decision that would shock everyone, including me. I found this out later, much later, but let me tell you what was happening in Tae-yang's office while I sat in that library. His office occupied the entire 3rd floor. Banks of monitors lined the walls, showing feeds from cameras positioned throughout the estate. Most crime lords use systems like that to watch for external threats. Tae-yang used his to watch everyone. He sat there with a glass of whiskey, untouched, and pulled up the footage from that morning. Watched Sua descend the stairs. Then he did something I didn't expect. He went back. Days, weeks. He watched her accidentally spill wine on my uniform and berate me for being clumsy. Watched her force me to re-scrub floors for imaginary spots. Watched her reduce young Mi-sun to tears over a folded towel. He watched 3 weeks of systematic cruelty, all carefully timed for when he wasn't around. And then he pulled up footage of Sua with him. Watched her transform into the perfect girlfriend the moment he appeared. Gracious, charming, elegant. The contrast was damning. On one monitor, he pulled up a live feed of me sitting in the library, waiting, hands folded, spine straight despite my fear. Not fidgeting, not checking my phone, just waiting with dignity. On another monitor, Sua paced her bedroom, already on the phone, already spinning the narrative, already calling her father to complain about the disrespectful foreign maid. I learned later that watching those 2 screens side by side, me sitting with quiet courage, her performing victimhood, was the moment Tae-yang made his decision. Not just about what to do with me, but about everything. For the rest of that day, nothing happened. Tae-yang didn't call me to his office, didn't fire me, didn't say anything. I went back to my quarters, expecting security to come for me at any moment. They didn't. But Sua? She wasn't about to let this go. That night, while I was sleeping, she made a mistake that would cost her everything. She used a key Tae-yang had given her months ago, for emergencies, and entered his private office. She went straight to a locked cabinet, pulled out a hard drive containing sensitive financial records, and planted it in my belongings. The plan was simple. Tip off security, have them discover the drive in my room, and watch me get arrested for espionage. In the crime world, stealing syndicate secrets isn't just fireable. It's a death sentence. The next morning, I was folding laundry when 4 security guards came for me. Their leader, a man named Kang, was cold and professional. "Naomi Robinson, we need to search your quarters, now." They tore my room apart, and exactly where Sua had planted it, they found a hard drive. Kang held it up like evidence in a murder trial. "What is this?" "I've never seen that before. Someone planted it." "Of course you'd say that." They brought me to Tae-yang's study. He sat behind his massive desk, expression unreadable. And standing beside him, wearing a perfectly tailored cream dress and an expression of wounded concern, was Sua. The performance had already begun. "Oh no, Naomi, how could you? After Tae-yang gave you a chance, after yesterday's incident, why would you betray his trust like this?" I looked straight at Tae-yang, ignored her completely. "I didn't take that drive. I've never seen it before. Someone planted it in my room to frame me." "Who would do such a thing? You're new here. You don't have enemies." Unless she's working for someone." A rival organization. Think about it, Tae-yang. A foreign worker, here on a temporary visa. Access to the household? It's the perfect cover for a spy. The word spy hung in the air like a death sentence. I opened my mouth to defend myself again, to accuse Soo-ah directly. But something made me stop. In that moment, she held all the cards. She had Tae-yang's trust, status, history. I had nothing but my word. So instead, I looked at Tae-yang and let him see everything. My fear, yes, but also my absolute certainty of my innocence. I didn't take this. I know how this looks, but I didn't do this. And I think you know who did. For a long moment, he said nothing, just looked at me with those analytical eyes. Then he picked up the hard drive and turned it over in his hands. Leave us, all of you. What? But Tae-yang, I said leave us. Alone with him, I felt the full weight of my situation. This man controlled my fate with a single word. He set the drive down and turned to his computer. This drive contains financial records for 3 of my legitimate business fronts. Nothing overtly criminal, but enough to cause complications if it reached my competitors. It's also logged. Every access is recorded with a timestamp and user ID. Would you like to see who last accessed this drive? My heart was pounding so hard, I thought he could hear it. Yes, sir. Yesterday, 11:47 p.m., user ID SLK-001. It's a fingerprint-coded access point. Only 3 people in this house have it. Myself, my head of security, and Lee Soo-ah. The implications hit me like a freight train. She accessed it the night before it went missing. So it would appear. I also have audio logs from my office, for security purposes. Then I heard her voice, Soo-ah's voice, recorded from the night before. Yes, Father, I have it. The drive from his office. No, he doesn't know. I'm going to plant it in her room. The American. Let them find it tomorrow. She struck me. She disrespected me. She needs to understand what happens when you cross Lee Soo-ah. Tae-yang stopped the recording. The silence in that office was deafening. In my world, Miss Robinson, betrayal of this magnitude doesn't go unanswered. Kang, gather everyone in the main hall. Staff, security, everyone on estate grounds. Also, have someone locate Miss Lee and escort her there. Not optional. 20 minutes later, the main hall was packed. Staff members lined the walls, whispering nervously. Security stood at attention. And at the front, Soo-ah waited. Her expression was confused but confident. She thought this was her victory. Thought Tae-yang had assembled everyone to witness my punishment. She had no idea what was coming. Tae-yang stood before all of us, completely composed. When he spoke, his voice carried easily through the silent hall. 3 weeks ago, I brought Naomi Robinson into this household as staff. Yesterday, she was involved in an altercation. Today, she was accused of theft and espionage. These accusations were false. I watched Soo-ah's face change. Confusion, then the first hint of fear. Tae-yang, what are you— I have evidence. Digital logs showing who accessed this drive last. Audio recordings of the person who planted it, admitting their plan. Would you like to hear yourself confessing? Or shall we skip to the part where you beg for mercy? The room erupted in whispers. Soo-ah stumbled backward like she'd been physically struck. You're lying! This is some kind of trick! You're protecting her because— Then her voice filled the hall, every word of her confession crystal clear. Yes, Father, I have it. The drive from his office. No, he doesn't know. I'm going to plant it in her room. The American. Let them find it tomorrow. She struck me. She disrespected me. She needs to understand what happens when you cross Lee Soo-ah. The room exploded in shocked whispers. I watched Soo-ah's world crumble in real time. Her legs gave out. She dropped to her knees, tears streaming. Real ones this time. Please, Tae-yang, please. I made a mistake. I was angry. I wasn't thinking. I'll apologize to her. I'll make it right. Please don't. Get out. You have 10 minutes to pack one bag. Take only what you came here with. Everything else stays. And if you ever set foot on Han property again, I won't be as merciful as I'm being now. Security moved forward, but Sua wasn't done. You'll regret this. My father. Your father will hear exactly what you did. And if he's smart, he'll thank me for handling this privately instead of making an example that would embarrass your entire family. 10 minutes. Starting now. 2 guards escorted her out, her sobs echoing through the halls. The staff stood in shocked silence. I could feel their eyes on me, their disbelief. Lee Soo-ah, the untouchable queen, had just been exiled, disgraced, powerless. But for me? The real shock was what came next. Because Han Tae-yang wasn't done making decisions that would change my life. After security escorted Soo-ah out, her sobs echoing through the halls, Tae-yang turned to me. The entire household was watching. Miss Robinson, my apologies for the distress the situation has caused you. You are, of course, cleared of all accusations. I nodded, not trusting my voice. But he wasn't done. Furthermore, there is an opening for a new position in this household. Someone is needed to manage the legitimate business accounts. Someone intelligent, detail-oriented, and demonstrably trustworthy. Would you be interested? I felt every eye in that room on me, felt the magnitude of what was being offered. This wasn't just a job. This was transformation. A place at the table instead of beneath it. Yes, sir, I would. Good. Report to my office tomorrow morning. We'll discuss the details. The next few weeks were surreal. I went from sleeping in a basement room shared with another maid to having my own office, from scrubbing floors to analyzing spreadsheets, from being invisible to being acknowledged. I was good at the work, better than good. My forensic accounting training meant I could spot discrepancies his previous accountant had missed, streamline processes, organize chaos into clear systems, and Tae-yang noticed. He started coming to my office most afternoons, ostensibly to review reports, but the conversations always drifted beyond business. Where I'd grown up, why I'd come to Korea, what I thought of Seoul. Small questions that felt like he was mapping out who I was. I deflected when I could, kept things professional, but the truth? I looked forward to those visits. Started anticipating them. There was something about seeing him without the armor, in shirt sleeves instead of suits, relaxed instead of on guard. One afternoon, about 2 months after Sua's exile, he brought me coffee. I noticed you drink it black, like I do. Such a small thing, but it meant he'd been paying attention. Thank you. The Western Import quarterly reports are ready for your review. Later. I want to ask you something personal. You can refuse to answer. Why did you really slap Sua? You endured 3 weeks of abuse in silence. What made that moment different? No one had asked me this. They'd accepted the surface explanation and moved on. But Tae-yang wanted to understand, and something about that made me want to be honest. She called my mother a name, in Korean. She thought I didn't understand, but I'd been studying the language since I knew I was coming here. She said terrible things about my family, my body, my worth. And then she slapped me like I was property that needed correcting. I could endure a lot for survival. Degrading work, public humiliation, isolation, but I couldn't endure being struck while being told I deserved it because of who I am. Some lines can't be crossed without response. His jaw tightened. I didn't know the depth of her insults. She was careful to abuse you in Korean when I wasn't around, wasn't she? Yes, she was strategic. I've been thinking about strength. In my world, strength is often defined as dominance, the ability to make others fear you. But watching you these past weeks, I've realized that's not strength at all. It's just effective intimidation. Real strength is what you showed. Endurance without breaking. The ability to draw a line and defend it even when the cost could be everything. That's power that can't be taken away. That conversation changed something between us. The professional distance we'd maintained started to blur. And over the next few months, I realized I was falling for this man, which was dangerous, complicated, and absolutely undeniable. 3 months after my promotion, Tae-yang invited me to a charity gala. It was a high society event, the kind where Seoul's elite gathered to see and be seen. He insisted on buying me a dress, deep emerald silk that made me feel both beautiful and exposed. As we walked through the gallery, I felt every eye tracking us. The notorious Tae-yang with an unknown black woman on his arm. The whispers were immediate. Then we ran into someone who wasn't content with just whispers. Lee Jin-woo, Sua's father, head of a rival syndicate. Mr. Han, what an interesting choice of companion. Mr. Lee, I didn't expect you this evening. I wouldn't miss it, especially not when I heard you'd be making a statement. Though I must say, the statement is surprising. Trading down quite significantly, aren't you? I felt Tae-yang tense beside me, but I spoke before he could. I'm sorry, I don't believe we've been introduced. Though, based on your remarkable resemblance to your daughter, I can make an educated guess. You must be the man who raised her to believe cruelty was power. Careful, girl. You're out of your depth. Am I? Because from where I'm standing, I see a man who taught his daughter to abuse people she considered beneath her, who encouraged her to frame an innocent woman for espionage, who's now attempting to intimidate me at a charity gala because he can't accept that his family's behavior has consequences. I know exactly who I'm speaking to. You're a man who mistakes fear for respect and wonders why your alliances are crumbling. Then I did something that probably sealed my reputation in Seoul's criminal underworld. I smiled. I also know your books, Mr. Lee. Based on the 15% loss your shipping company reported last quarter, which I spotted in 10 minutes of reviewing public filings, I'd say Mr. Han is trading up. Perhaps you should spend less time on insults and more time on your ledgers. Tae-yang laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. Lee Jin-woo's face turned purple, but before he could respond, Tae-yang steered me out to a private balcony, away from the stunned crowd. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Can't it be both? With you, it usually is. Naomi, I brought you here tonight because I wanted them to see what I see. Someone brilliant, strong, unafraid. Someone who makes me want to be better than the man I've been. I know we've been careful, taking time, building trust, but I need to say this. I'm falling for you. Have been since the moment you refused to apologize for defending yourself. And I don't care what they think, what society expects, what tradition demands. I care about you. Every warning bell in my head was screaming. This was dangerous. He was a crime lord. I was a former maid. The power imbalance alone. But looking at him in that moment, I knew the truth. What I felt wasn't gratitude. It wasn't Stockholm Syndrome or survival instinct. It was real. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Lee won't let this go. Others will challenge you. Your mother will have opinions. We're from completely different worlds. Then we'll build a new one, together, if you're willing. I thought about my mother's warning, about power and safety, and all the reasons this was a terrible idea. And then I thought about how I'd come to Seoul just to survive, and somehow, against all odds, I'd found something worth living for. Yes, I'm willing. 5 years is a long time. Long enough to transform an organization. Long enough to prove that love built in crisis can survive peace. Long enough to change everything. The Han estate was different now. The oppressive silence was gone. Staff members smiled, laughed. They were paid fairly, treated with respect, given opportunities to grow. Tae-yang and I had spent 5 years restructuring his empire, shifting from fear-based control to operations built on loyalty and mutual benefit. We divested from the most harmful enterprises, created legitimate businesses, built something we could be proud of. It hadn't been easy. We'd faced opposition from traditionalists who saw reform as weakness, rivals who tried to exploit the transition, society matrons who whispered about the crime lord who'd married his maid. Let them whisper. The wedding ceremony was small. Tae-yang's mother, who'd eventually accepted me after seeing how happy I made her son, a handful of organization members who'd become friends, and my mother and brother flown in from America. My mom was in remission, 3 years cancer-free. She got to see me marry the man I loved. When I walked down that aisle and saw Tae-yang waiting for me, I thought about the terrified girl who'd slapped his girlfriend 5 years ago, who'd expected death and found life instead. The vows were simple, promises we'd already been keeping. Later that night at the reception, I stood at the window overlooking the city. Seoul sparkled beneath me, full of possibility, full of futures I never could have imagined when I first landed here, with nothing but desperation and hope. Then I saw her. On the street below, barely visible in the shadows, a woman stood watching the estate. Even from that distance, I recognized her. Lee Soo-ah. She looked older, tired. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by a simple coat that suggested diminished circumstances. Our eyes met across the distance. She didn't look angry anymore, just tired. Maybe regretful. She raised one hand in what might have been acknowledgement or farewell. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into Seoul's night. Letting go. I felt Tae-yang's arm circle my waist. Letting go? I think we both are. Her letting go of bitterness, me letting go of the fear that this could still be taken away. It can't be. We built this together. It's ours. I turned to face the man who'd seen my worth when I was just a maid with bruised dignity. I love you. For seeing me, for choosing me, for building this life with me. I love you for saving me. From a life of fear and isolation, from becoming the man everyone expected. You showed me another way was possible. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, slapping her that day, starting the chain of events that led here. I don't, because that moment, that split-second decision to defend myself, wasn't just about refusing to be struck. It was about refusing to be invisible, refusing to accept cruelty as inevitable, refusing to let fear make me smaller than I was. I came to Seoul to survive, to save my mother's life, to send money home and count down the days until I could leave. Instead, I built a life, found love, became part of something bigger than survival. And I learned that courage, real courage, the kind that defends dignity even at great cost, can change everything. The slap heard around Seoul. That's what they called it. The moment a maid dared to strike back against power. The moment that transformed not just my life, but an entire organization. The moment that proved strength and kindness aren't opposites, they're partners, just like us.